get some people in the room. I like to see the numbers rolling in, and then we can kick it off. All right, I'll get us started here. Hi, I am Maribel Rivera, Vice President of Strategy and Client Engagement at ACEDS, and I am joined today by Jared Coseglia, CEO and founder of True Staffing Partners, ACEDS affiliate, and Mike Quartararo, President of ACEDS. Good morning. How are you both?
Good morning.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
it's afternoon.
Hello. Yeah. Hello, everyone. It's been a long morning for me. So to kick us off, welcome to Ion ESI. This is our monthly job trend update that we provide. We've been doing this for, feels like a long time now, almost 2 years.
Yeah, almost, yeah.
Yeah. So we've been doing a great job working with Jared and the True Staffing team, looking at the numbers and kind of assessing where we are. This is an open forum. We want to hear your questions. We want to know what's on your mind. So please feel free to throw questions in the Q&A or in the comments. We're going to grab those. And again, this is not about me, Mike, and Jared talking to each other. This is really about providing you information and listening to what your comments and feedback and questions are as well. So Jared, let's get started.
Let's get started. So if you haven't read True's 2024 jobs report, read it. It's still relevant, but probably for not much longer because the job market is changing pretty rapidly. And I always like to tell people, this tells you the story of all the Ion ESIs that we did over 2023 in sort of a compendium narrative. And now we're, telling the story of 2024 live in person for you. Check this out. Lots of stuff in there, very still relevant as the market slowly begins to change. Moving on. I always like to talk about what are the top 5 hottest jobs that we're working on right now. This is a new thing we're adding, and it's because it's going to inform the conversation we're going to have today, specifically the one at the top. We're starting to get customers coming to us asking to help them with generative AI and AI crafted jobs that they are putting together. We've got one AmLaw firm right now that we're working with that's got a really exciting opportunity. It's more of an evangelist role, and we'll talk about the uniqueness of that sort of positioning of the roles, responsibilities in that way in the title. We've got a ton of e-discovery analysts, particularly in New York. New York analysts, high demand right now, low supply. Most of these jobs are law firms. Most of these jobs are in an office. This is what's making it difficult for customers to fill these jobs. We're starting to see review management tick up, governance tick up, and ESI project managers tick up. So this gives you a snapshot of what we're seeing, and we're going to unpack the numbers behind a lot of these jobs that are trending right now. So what's happening? The legal AI and Gen AI job market is beginning to codify. And when we prep for this call, Mike made fun of me for using the word codify. So I'll explain to everybody.
No, I didn't make fun. I said we need to clarify. We need to clarify.
He was questioning it.
Yeah, it's a fair question, right? Because I'm probably using the word wrong. I'll admit it. It means, it's being coded. It means it's starting to come together. It's starting to congeal. It's starting to
mature.
Yeah, it's maturing, but it's not mature. It's still the wild, wild west. And the metaphor that I use with Maribel and Mike in prep for this call, and I've been using with my team and a lot of my customers, and it seems to, if nothing else, give everybody a chuckle. Think of AI like a black hole sun. It's sucking everything in towards it right now. It has inertia. And that inertia is saying, I want this from my IT professionals. I want this from my lawyers. I want this from engineers. I need this from project management. All these different skill sets. I want all of this. And the problem is you can't have all of that in one human being. And most people are trying to hire one AI job right now if they're at a law firm or in a legal service provider consultant firm community, unless they're building a practice. But even the lawyers are generally, hiring ones and twos. It's not like anybody's got a $50 million budget to go build a team of AI people in legal to the tune of 20 to 40 working professionals on payroll. That's not what's happening right now. What's happening is we've gotten enough headcount budget to hire a role that we want to do all these things that are getting sucked towards the black hole. What happens is those things will codify and we'll say, well, we need someone to do this. And the intensity and demand for all those different needs will create a sun that explodes. And when it explodes, we'll have what we have in privacy, security, and e-discovery, which is a ecosystem with clearly defined roles and responsibilities. We're so far from that right now in AI. So now is the time for people to think about using words like exploratory on their resume, because that's what we're all doing. We're kind of getting sucked closer to the black hole sun, waiting to figure out where we fit in that ecosystem, and then what that ecosystem is and how we can capitalize on it as career professionals, right?
I'm just gonna say that I love the visual, and so I feel like if you don't go do it, I'm gonna have to go have someone create this visual of this for us, because I think that would be powerful in our next webinar.
You know I like visuals, so
I know, that's why I was like, that is a great visual. Let's put it, let's get that one.
Yeah,
let's codify it.
Let's codify it. Yeah, let's do it. So here's what's also interesting. We're seeing ESI and privacy pros move into these AI jobs. And I'll use a few really cool examples. Some amazing talents. Conan Hines, who's now running Fried Frank's legal advisory technology unit, sort of self-branding himself as AI. That's not all he does, but his job is to evangelize that at the firm, get buy-in, help execute on projects. And he comes from ediscovery. He was a review manager and then found his way into that by focusing on, well, what can I do to help the business? Not just the customers, but the business too, within a law firm. And that's where AI for law firms is being leveraged, or has the greatest desire to be leveraged now. And then it's slowly moving towards how they can help their customers. In privacy, what we're seeing is people wanting to govern their data using AI. And so that's sort of creating a different nomenclature, which is AI governance, as opposed to, say, legal technology advisory, right? Mike Ferdinand, another amazing example, brilliant guy, right? He was the support manager director at Cadwalader, went on to the corporate side, found his way into governance and projects for legal that were technology oriented, but not exclusively e-discovery. And now he's running the job at Clifford Chance, running all of their global legal technology or domestic legal technology advisory services. I mean, these are just like people I grew up with in e-discovery who have found their way now to dealing with AI related projects. That's not to say that you have to leave ESI to start wielding AI. That's a whole separate category we're seeing start to develop now, where customers, more so the consulting firms and vendors, which is usually where progressive rules sort of begin to develop first and percolate before they move to the law firms, are starting to look for people that are wielding AIR and are wielding proprietary plugins that Disco and Everlaw and other technology providers in the space are developing and rolling out and using with customers, specifically using AI. And so, we're starting to see different stuff develop, right? There's the AI of privacy, meaning how are we using technology to actually help us with our privacy compliance programs or help the business empower privacy to drive revenue. But then there's also the privacy of AI, a whole lawyer ecosystem that understands the AI EU Act, that's focusing on contract negotiation, how data is being used or can or cannot be used if it's accessed for helping develop ML models. These things are now job requirements. The problem is most law firms in particular want all of that in one human being for under $150,000, right? And that's where things are going to mature very quickly, is how do we break these things off into digestible chunks that can actually have an impact on a business in a shorter amount of time.
And I will say last year, we did say that this was going to happen.
We did.
So we did say it here that it was going to happen and we were going to start to see it more and more. I think Mike didn't agree, but you and I saw the vision.
Well, I think Mike was still right in that we haven't seen it impact what I would say is the commoditized, to some extent, e-discovery job market, where ESI PMs, everyone sort of knows what an ESI PM should bring to the table, generally speaking, varying on years of experience. But I think now what we've got is, nobody has any idea for e-discovery what AI should be as a job, right? And I'm still with Mike in that I think what Mike identified that's right is it's not going to be a specialization probably in e-discovery at a certain point. It'll be like analytics, which is something that everyone's sort of got to know at a certain level if you're going to work on the really big stuff in particular. But then to a certain extent, everyone's just got to know because everyone's wielding it and it's required from all the customers that you have a baseline knowledge of analytics, you have a baseline knowledge of AI, and then there'll be power users just like there is for everything.
Yeah. And I would agree there. I think also people are looking at automations more, right? In e-discovery, we've been focused so much on automations and we've been doing the AI for a long time now. Just everyone else is catching up.
Agreed. All right.
I'll speak for myself because I'm here and you guys are talking like I'm not.
You're being very quiet, which is unusual.
No, because I was trying to find this.
What is this?
It's having a jam session.
No, what I was referring to was, I see real impact, AI's real impact in doc review. I just don't see it in other areas of e-discovery yet. That's all. That's the only point I was making when we last talked about it. So I see an impact there, but it's not going to impact things like identification and preservation, collection. How are you going to use AI to collect? You gotta look, you gotta search, you gotta find stuff. AI is not going to do that for us. You need a brain.
But lawyers are negotiating that now, is what I'm seeing and hearing, right? Like when I talk to my partners at law firms who are on the front lines of representing customers that are Fortune top 10 tech companies, they are definitely getting into discovery negotiation using certain AI components in order to say that it's credible in what it produces as part of discovery, 100%. And saying we're going to use this in order to save costs. We think here's the proof saying that the outcomes of this are viable. I definitely think that's happening out there.
But don't lose sight of this either. 75% of the cost of discovery, putting aside e-discovery, is in that doc review space. So it obviously makes sense that we're finding efficiency and using new tools and solutions there, because that's the most expensive part of it. But if you're looking at something like collection, there's what is AI going to do there? Production, someone's still got to spit out that production. Trial prep, like you need humans. You can't, like a robot can't conduct a trial, right?
Look, I don't want to be a harbinger of like AI is coming to take people's jobs, because I really don't feel that way at all. I feel quite the opposite. But I do think that what the problem is, and this goes back to that evangelist job I was talking about at the top of the call, the need right now at the top of law firm influence, which are rainmaking partners who are now on steering committees for AI for the firm, is to provide influence in order to get adoption broadly throughout the partnership and other ranks within the firm, using AI, and to get nomenclature and education and training to everybody so that they can speak intelligently to their customers. Otherwise, they fear they might risk losing the business, not because they use or don't use AI in discovery to save money, not save money. That hasn't impacted the market right now. What is impacting the market is this lawyer knows how to talk about this stuff more intelligently than this lawyer over here who I've used for the last 10 years in litigation. I think I'm going to go with this one right now.
Yeah.
That's happening out there. And that becomes now competitive advantage for attorneys.
And it's about educating their clients, right? Their end clients too, who are coming back and talking about these things. But I will say, Mike, there will probably be a time where we could use AI in trial prep. But again, we want to talk about it as far as a tool, not it's a tool like all the other tools that we have. It's not something to replace people. It's about having a tool that we can incorporate into everything. So I want to keep going because we've got a lot and we've got 15 minutes. And I don't want to get stuck in the AI swamp.
Yeah, no, but we knew we were going to lose ourselves in it a little bit today because it's starting to become a real thing. It's also, I'll say this, and because I said it in the top of our hot jobs today, and I think it's an important point. It's the part of the job market that's the least predictable. And where there's a lot of unpredictability, there's also a lot of opportunity, which is why I think it's worth us paying attention to. What becomes challenging for a lot of e-discovery professionals is they feel a little trapped in their jobs. They feel a little like they've been doing a lot of the same things, and they're looking for ways to expand. And this is a part of the marketplace that is going to impact every aspect of legal, including e-discovery, at some point. And if you're an early adopter, getting other people to be adopters, you are going to develop a reputation for being a thought leader and being progressive. And that has dividends for people from a career mobility and vertical mobility perspective, right? That's why we talk about it. Anyway, we talked about this a little bit last time. Volume of law firm hiring is equal to the volume of vendor hiring. That's due to two huge trends. One is extreme cost reduction pressure and margin increase pressure on the vendor consulting firm side. They're doing a whole lot more with less. It's starting to feel like 2008, 9, 10 again out there in my mind in terms of the burnout factor, and the amount of Relativity One adoption that's occurring in-house at law firms and the talent demand that's being pulled in-house as a result of that. That's what's creating this equilibrium. It's not an equilibrium that I think will last for a long time. So for job seekers out there who are specifically interested in working for law firms, specifically if you've got Relativity One skills, now is a very good time for you to consider the job market, because those skills are getting paid a premium as more people adopt it and want more plug and play talent in order to help them accelerate the utilization of pulling work away from their vendors and doing more themselves in-house.
And Jared, is Relativity one of the, like any type of Relativity certification or experience, still one of the top ones that you're seeing?
The RCA tops all, right? The RCA still has the greatest value, but keep in mind, part of that value is because specifically if you work at a vendor, you are telling the world on Relativity's website how many RCAs you have on staff. And so that metric has a quantitative value to a service provider that might be a little bit different from a law firm. At a law firm, it has more to do with instant credibility to do the job at hand and plug in. I think anybody that's been using Relativity a long time but is not in Relativity One might get some pushback on what the differences are in maneuvering between the two. Even though there's a lot of similarities, there's certainly growing amount of differences. I think anybody that's an RCA is going to get bypassed through that hesitation more readily. But somebody who's got a Relativity One cert, I think that's now the second most valuable of the certifications in the Relativity ecosystem, is the Relativity One cert, because it gives that stamp to a potential hiring manager of, oh, I can plug them into my one ecosystem. Even if they haven't used it, they went through the training. So the translation from Prem to One will be easier for us and will take less of an investment from us to get them up and running.
So we have a quick question. Thank you for that. We have a quick question going back to AI. The question is, let me preface it all. I work for a small firm and we have no AI use at our firm, but maybe for using it in some PDF documents. They currently use iPro for discovery review, so Reveal, only for large production documents. Do we think AI would be helpful with programs such as iPro? I'm a baby at all this technology and I'm still learning iPro. How can I acquire the skills you are discussing today? Because I do not see our firm using any of the AI programs you are discussing.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole, and I don't want to speak too far out of turn. So correct me, Maribel and Mike, if you know it differently, but I would probably say your shortest path to getting engagement on an AI technology would be to sort of up level from iPro into Reveal's bigger product scope, which includes BrainSpace and the NextLP integration with the Reveal technology, which really is where they're focused on having e-discovery AI capability, right? That would probably be the shortest path, since they're all owned by the same company. And my sense is that they'd be happy to move someone from an iPro to a Reveal environment and help them understand what those benefits are. So I'd call your sales rep at iPro. And if not, call whoever the rep is at Reveal. And if you still can't find someone there to talk to you, call me and I'll give you I won't give you the CEO's phone number, but somebody close enough to get your questions answered.
And I would say they can dig into Reveal also has an academy, the Reveal Academy, where they can dig into any of those different programs. But let's keep going here on True Trends. And
apart from that, no, just because I don't want to sort of harp on one particular technology. Read.
Yeah.
attend webinars. There's tons of free content out there. ACEDS puts on, as much as 3 times a week, some kind of program, and AI inevitably comes up. The technology competence inevitably comes up.
Yeah.
Attend these things. Just that's how you really get up to speed on what's happening in the market. Go to conferences.
Yeah. And I would say we have a great column by Kat Casey from Reveal, who talks all about AI and all the things there. So I would say that's another resource. Is if you haven't subscribed to the blog, then subscribe to the blog.
Check out
And
Cassie
I agree with
Burns
Mike.
too. Cassie Burns at King and Spalding.
Cassie Burns has a
Yeah.
amazing podcast. I'll look for the link right now and drop it in. But Cassie Burns is amazing. Follow her on LinkedIn as well.
All right, speed of hire decelerated in July. And can we actually, MT, just skip ahead to that speed of hire slide so that everybody can see that real quick, since we're talking about it? And I know we're going to run short on time. It really is, when you see it visually, pretty dramatic. That top line is executive search, so manager, director, and above. Essentially, anything we were working on, which is plenty of stuff in the end of the second quarter, is still sort of waiting to get offers accepted and wrapped up, right? It's just people are moving very slow. People have been asking me, hey, is the job market slowing down? And the response is, well, the job market's not slowing down in terms of the volume of job opportunities that are out there. There's a good amount of turnover and replacement and add to staff and all of that. It's what I would call healthy, but not exuberant. But the speed at which people are pulling the trigger on making offers and getting acceptances is dragging, which is what's slowing down the market, right? There's 2 ways the market slows down. You run out of jobs, or everybody just takes a really long time to make decisions. And that's what these numbers are really reflective of, with the exception of salespeople, which is that baby blue line, which is the second to the top, and then it's down here now at 47. The reason that's speeding up is because these months like June, July, August are sort of the last opportunities for providers to hire a sales rep where they have an ability to maybe make an impact on revenue numbers for 2024.
And
so,
Jared,
yeah.
I just want to clarify one thing. This is oh, I see. It's at the bottom. From resume to verbal offer accept. So it's not necessarily the employer, it's the candidate sometimes who's.
It's both. It is both. But I will tell you, it's more the employer. It's more the employer, right? People are on vacation. We've got to delay interviews. We've also seen the average amount of stakeholders involved in interview processes slowly start to creep up, particularly on the executive level searches. I mean, we've got one director of lit support search we're working on where I think they've interviewed now with 9 different people within the organization, right, over the course of 4 to 5 months. So, as that volume increases, so too does the time, so too does the acceptance ratio. You lose candidates over that period because it's taking too long. All of these things are factoring into the extension of these searches. What I think is most important to see here is 2 things. One, that contracting is not slowing down. In fact, it's accelerating. And when people need something, they need it fast, and they make decisions fast. Right. Which is also why we're seeing more contractors getting jobs than people in full-time roles, because they're making decisions faster on the contractors than they are on the full-time roles. And the cycle sort of musical chair sort of repeats in a greater frequency than the full-time musical chair cycle in ediscovery.
Fair.
If we go back to the main slide, MT, just to recalibrate us quickly, and then we can show a few more of these numbers. The motivations won't blow anybody's mind. I think we all kind of expect to see that there. Law firms are continuing to show a preference and priority candidates willing to come into an office. But I will tell you that the law firms are starting to crack on requiring people to be 3 to 5 days a week in an office. I would say any of my clients that have a 5-day-a-week policy are now engaging in some sort of conversation of deceleration, whether it's from 5 to 4, from 5 to 3, from 4 to 3, from 4 to 0. I mean, lots of customers in the law firm community are starting to realize this is going to be a perpetual challenge, not a moment in time. And so that's good news. But having said that, if you're someone who's willing to come into an office, you've got advantage over other candidates in the marketplace, at least for right now.
Hey, Jared, let me ask you a question. When does that come up? When does how many days do I have to work in the office in the interview is that like question number 1?
Question number 1, 2, or 3.
Really?
100%.
Are you, I'm going to assume, as you're working with your clients and they're putting those into some of the job descriptions ahead of time anyway, so you already know.
We are requiring it. I mean, when we sit down with a customer and we do a job order intake and, talk about what they're looking for, I mean, we've got a very extensive checklist, but that is now one of the things that is standard operating procedure here at True is how many days, how flexible, what's the policy, what's the consequence for not following the policy, what's the policy enforcement. I mean, we've got it down to, I don't want to say a science, but, we're trying to get really to the psychology of all of this, and helping customers understand that what they say in terms of these things like policy enforcement, what the firm says, what the department will do and how it's different, has major bearing on whether or not candidates will continue through the process or potentially accept an offer. And if they don't get to those things until the end of their interview process, they're going to waste so much time on things that are deal breakers for job seekers. So no, that has to come out in the first conversation with utter clarity in our mind.
It just continues to amaze me that every job I've ever interviewed for, and there's been dozens and dozens over the years, like salary, benefits, like those are the first.
But those are taboo. Those are taboo topics to talk about on a first date, Mike. It's like politics and the drugs you did in college. You don't talk about that stuff on a first
No, maybe you don't
date.
talk about them, but let's be honest. That's what a job seeker is thinking. I'm making this move because I need better benefits. I need more money.
I think it's a different culture now too, right? We're starting to see, especially with a lot of people coming out of COVID, that life is different and you need to think about it in different ways. And especially this younger generation, they don't think about benefits and things. They do want to have the benefits, but they also want to have some freedom of flexibility around their schedules and when they can work or where they can work.
I agree with all that, and I'll add even more complexity to it. We've got all these laws that are getting passed that require pay transparency, and the intent of these laws is to try to eliminate gender discrimination, which is a beautiful intent and thing. However, what it's led to with a lot of corporations is posting a job with $100 to $150 to $300,000 range in what the job will pay. And so a candidate has to be very careful in their mind, I think, about going on an interview and starting the conversation around money because they don't want to negotiate against themselves based on what the job's advertised range is, which is a really big, wide range. In the same token, a lot of candidates, not just women, but lots of candidates, don't want to talk about salary on the first interview because they feel like they could immediately get disqualified if they overbid themselves or immediately get taken advantage of if they underbid themselves, right? I have less interest in this person because they gave me a number that's too high, so we'll look at 10 other candidates. I have less interest in this person because they gave me a number that's so low that maybe they're not very good at their job, right? It's this whole mind game. So that's why I say you don't want to talk about it on the first date. Now, in office, not in an office, this is very different. This isn't something that is variable. What's the policy? It's a very simple question. And if there isn't one, how do you guys mitigate those rules and boundaries between employer and employee? Have they changed historically? What were they after the pandemic? What did they become? I mean, what we're looking at here is a whole job market where we're still recalibrating. Businesses are still recalibrating to what new normal is. So we're not in a place where that's something that people should make assumptions about.
Yeah. So we only have a few minutes left and well, 1 minute left, but I want to talk about boredom, and because I'm starting to see more and more articles and hearing more and more people talk about this last bullet point.
Yeah, people are just bored, man.
It's fascinating to me. Like e-discovery's never been boring. Like how?
I don't know if it's
e-discovery.
E-discovery. Yeah, it's not that. What I think that they're bored with, and it's not just boredom, it's a feeling and a sense that they don't know what is next. They don't know where to put their passions and their efforts and their extracurricular, self-incentive time. They're unsure. People are looking for that kind of leadership. And I'll be really honest, I don't think they're getting it from their managers. I think people are getting managed, but I don't know that they're getting mentored. And look, I know on a personal level, it's very hard sometimes to do both at the same time when you're having to be transactional with employees and then also trying to be spiritual with them from a work perspective at the same time. That's a difficult, task. But people need that. Where is their career going? Having conversations with employees about where we might be able to maneuver together within the firm, help me win advocacy. How do we start talking about AI, making it a conversation with employees instead of a mystery or we're not supposed to touch that. That'll eliminate boredom. Boredom usually comes from not knowing what comes next. And so you're looking for something to do with your idle hands.
Yeah.
Got it.
Awesome. So Jared, we're at 1 o'clock. Let's
Yes.
give us some stuff to walk away with and think about for next month.
Burnout, just pure amount of hours is still number one. Boredom, number two. For the month of July, the third highest motivator for people was in response specifically to that generative AI post that we advertised at the beginning of this call. That's how many people came out of the woodwork and responded to that. It became the number 3 motivator, more than people coming to us in the month of July and asking for more money. Fifth is unemployment. Unemployment rose. We're north of 4%. It's the highest it's been since the pandemic. I don't think that trend will continue, but I do think it will probably continue for 60 days. Speed of hire we covered, so we could zip through this onto the next. Offer acceptance likelihood, it's down to 50% on first offers, which essentially signals to all of us that, hey, just because you get a first offer, it doesn't mean that they're going to take it the way they were in the first 3 quarters of 2023, and that candidates are getting more than one offer at the time that they're leaving a job, and they are. I would say most of our candidates are getting a minimum of 2 and an average of probably 2.5-ish, right? A lot of people are getting 3 offers.
Awesome.
Next. Here are the numbers. Salaries have gone up for analysts. Salaries have gone up a little bit for consultants and managers because it's been difficult to get people into offices, and that's why it's driving salaries up. And if we look at vendors, salaries are going down in some areas and up in others. People are wanting more sophisticated middle leadership and review management and client services for the first time in quite a long time, but people still want less expensive project managers and less expensive salespeople in base compensation. And that's really all we've got for this week, everybody. Appreciate everybody coming as always, and thanks for having me, Maribel and Mike.
Yeah, and we'll have a couple of staff members, right, next week at ILTACon. ACEDS will be at ILTACon, so we hope if you are there, please stop by and say hello to us. Who should we be looking for while you're at ILTACon? I know you won't be.
I won't be there because I'm finally taking a vacation with my wife and no children for the first time in 7 years. So forgive me,
Awesome.
Ilta, it had to be done. But Jess Barr, who's our Senior Vice President of Recruitment and Account Management, she does a lot of e-discovery, she does a lot of data privacy, and she's doing some of our AI work as well. She'll be speaking on a panel about DEI in AI, which is a really important topic that I know is close to your heart, Maribel. Come see her there. She's on an amazing panel of women who have really some amazing data points and perspectives to share.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next month. And please let us know if there's any questions you have. In the meantime, we'll try and get to them next month. Thank you again. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Jared.
Thanks, guys. Be well.
We'll see you all.